I consider this a betrayal, Sylvia said coldly, her voice slicing through the office silence like a blade. She sat rigid behind a grand oak desk, her gaze fixed on me with clinical disdain. After all, Ravlin and Co. has invested in you. Across from her, I sat frozen, clutching my purse like a lifeline. I'd been summoned to her office at precisely 9 a.m. on a Tuesday. The moment I saw her expression, I knew it wasn't a performance review. Sylvia, she raised a finger, cutting me off. No explanations. I have an email from HR confirming that you interviewed with Echelon Strategies last Thursday. You requested time off for a dental appointment. My name is Natalie Chen. I'm 31 years old, and I spent 6 years building my career at Ravlin & Co., a marketing agency based in Portland, Oregon. In those years, I more than tripled our top-tier client base, personally secured over $8 million in revenue, and built relationships that kept us ahead in a highly competitive field. Apparently, none of that earned me the right to explore new opportunities discreetly. Security will escort you to your desk, Sylvia said evenly. You may collect your personal belongings. Your email has been deactivated, and your building access is revoked. She slid my staff ID across the table like it was a receipt for expired goods. 3 times for 3 consecutive years, I had sat in this very office, calm and prepared, armed with printouts, graphs, and salary reports from competitors. I had shown her what I brought to the table. Each time, I'd been met with budget excuses, despite the company announcing record growth and opening 2 new departments. I stood, adjusting my blazer with as much grace as I could muster. I understand, I said. Sylvia blinked, maybe surprised by the absence of a tearful plea. She offered a faint handshake, which I accepted. As the security officer trailed behind me to my desk, I felt a strange sense of peace. No outbursts, no dramatics, only resolve. I packed 6 years of my life into a cardboard box, framed photos, a mug from my first agency win, a tangle of pens, and 3 potted succulents I'd managed to keep alive. A few colleagues glanced in my direction, some with pity, others with silent outrage. I smiled at them all. Dignity, that was my choice. The sun was bright as I stepped out of Ravlin's glass front doors for the last time. As I placed the box gently in my car trunk, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Colin Ramsey, CEO of Echelon Strategies. Would you be available to meet today at 2 o'clock to finalize our offer? I smiled to myself. Sylvia had no idea. Driving home, I kept the windows down, the box secure in the back seat. 6 years, reduced to a handful of items and 1 hard goodbye. But I wasn't angry. Not really. I joined Ravlin right out of grad school. Back then, I was hungry and optimistic, a marketing degree from Oregon State and a chip on my shoulder. My first months were filled with small tasks, taking notes in meetings, proofing slideshows, refilling coffee. But I didn't complain. I stayed late, volunteered for impossible campaigns, and earned a reputation for being both reliable and relentless. Within 2 years, I was managing accounts that more seasoned colleagues couldn't hold on to. By year 4, I was leading our partnership with Echelon, the biggest name on our client roster. Colin had specifically requested me after I jumped in during a PR crisis that nearly cost us their business. You seem to know what I'm going to need before I say it, he told me once. From there, our collaboration exploded. Echelon extended their annual contract twice and tripled their spending with us. I'd been the architect behind every successful campaign they'd launched in the last 2 years. Sylvia had applauded then. This is the leadership we reward, she said. But the praise never translated into pay. After my first big win, I asked for a raise respectfully, with supporting metrics. Not this quarter, she said, but your effort has been noted. The second request came the following year. I had onboarded 3 new national clients and was named in a regional industry award. Still, she said, we're tightening the budget across departments. Be patient. The third time I asked just 6 months ago was after renegotiating Echelon's contract for a 50% increase. You're phenomenal, Sylvia said, but this year, our focus is on technology investments. That night, I opened my RSUM for the first time in 6 years. Not because I was angry, but because I finally respected myself enough to walk away. I didn't expect her to find out before I'd even submitted my notice. Back at my apartment, I placed the box on the counter. I stared at it in the dim kitchen light. That's when the weight finally settled in. I wasn't just between jobs. I was unemployed. I sat down on a stool and exhaled slowly, trying to process the blur of the morning. My phone rang. Olivia's name lit up the screen. Thomas texted me, she said the moment I answered. Are you okay? Thomas worked in IT. He was Olivia's boyfriend. And like all offices, ours had a robust underground communication network. I'm all right, I said quietly. Still processing. She called it disloyalty? Olivia said, incredulous. She's the one who's been disloyal 3 years of turning down your raise requests and taking credit for your work in board meetings. And now this? There was truth in that. Sylvia had once been Ravlin's top account exec before climbing into leadership. Many of us suspected she still craved the praise that came from client wins. More than once, she'd inserted herself into my calls with Colin for no reason beyond visibility. She humiliated me, I said, letting the words come. Like I was being punished for wanting more. Let her panic, Olivia said firmly, and let Echelon see your worth. You were the reason they stayed this long. A call came through. Colin, I need to take this, I told her. Go, and call me after, Olivia said before hanging up. I picked up. Natalie, Colin said. I just heard what happened. His voice wasn't shocked, just decisive. If you're available today, I'd like to fast-track our conversation. 2 o'clock, okay? Yes, I said. That works perfectly. Good, he replied. And Natalie, what happened this morning? It may be the best thing that ever happened to you. After we hung up, I stared at my reflection in the kitchen window. The woman staring back wasn't defeated. She was finally free. That afternoon, I stood in the marble-lined lobby of Echelon Strategies' downtown Portland headquarters. The space felt worlds away from the muted tones and cubicle maze of Ravlin. This building shimmered with modern energy sleek furniture, smart glass partitions, and soft jazz playing overhead. Everything about it signaled possibility. Colin Ramsey greeted me at reception himself. Always polished, always composed. He offered a firm handshake and a genuine smile. Natalie, thank you for coming on short notice, he said. I appreciate the opportunity, I replied. He led me to a corner conference room with a panoramic view of the Willamette River. A coffee tray waited at the center of the table, along with a thick folder. No small talk, no pretense, just business the kind I was ready for. I'll be blunt, Colin began. We were preparing to present this offer next week, assuming you'd give notice at Ravlin. Obviously, this morning changed the timeline. I nodded, careful to keep my emotions in check. I had intended to resign professionally. I never imagined Sylvia would react so aggressively. You deserved better, Colin said. Your work has always spoken for itself. That said, he slid the folder toward me. Here's what we had in mind. I opened it and found a formal offer letter for the position of Director of Client Development. The compensation figure made my breath hitch. It was nearly double my current salary at Ravlin. The benefits package was generous, and the scope of the role? Massive. I wouldn't just manage a few accounts. I'd be leading a department, overseeing agency partnerships and developing long-term strategies. This is more than I expected, I said carefully. Colin smiled. It's what you've earned. We've watched you go above and beyond for years. You deserve to be somewhere that recognizes it before you're forced to ask. Those words landed like a quiet revelation. I had always framed my requests at Ravlin as negotiations, but what they truly were appeals for basic acknowledgement. I'd like to take the evening to review this fully, I said. Of course, Colin said, standing to shake my hand again. We'd be lucky to have you. Walking back to my car, I passed a boutique I loved but had rarely entered, thinking of price tags. Not anymore. That offer letter had changed things. I wasn't just walking towards something new. I was walking away from the version of myself who waited too long for permission to grow. At home, I placed the offer on the dining table and texted Olivia. It's real. They want me. She responded within seconds. Of course they do. Sylvia just did you the biggest favor of her career. Later that evening, my phone rang again. It was a number I didn't recognize. Natalie Chen? A crisp female voice asked. Yes, this is Carol Deming. I serve on the board at Ravlin & Co. My stomach tightened. I understand you were terminated today under circumstances that may have bypassed standard procedure, she continued. I'd like to meet with you tomorrow if you're available. So, the board had caught wind of Sylvia's overreach and they weren't pleased. I kept my voice even. I appreciate the call, but I've already received and plan to accept another offer. A pause. Then, would you be willing to meet regardless? I believe a conversation would benefit both parties. After a brief hesitation, I agreed to 9 o'clock a.m. the next morning. Closure, I told myself. That was all this was. The Ravlin lobby looked different when you returned as a guest. Jessica, the receptionist, did a double take when she saw me. Miss Chen, you're here to meet Miss Deming? Yes. She leaned in and whispered, everyone's talking. Nobody thinks what happened was right. Her words warmed me, but I simply nodded. Thank you, Jessica. In the boardroom upstairs, Carol Deming stood to greet me. Poised and silver-haired, she wore authority effortlessly. Thank you for coming, Natalie. I wasn't sure what to expect, I admitted as I sat. I'll be direct, Carol said, sliding a slim folder in front of her. Your record here is exceptional. 6 years of consistent growth, client retention, and internal recognition. I reviewed your personnel file last night. What I didn't find was any documented justification for yesterday's termination. I met her gaze steady. There wasn't one. I was accused of being disloyal. No formal warning. No due process. Indeed, Carol said, her tone disapproving. Sylvia acted without consulting the board. She's had too much unchecked authority for too long. I said nothing. There was nothing I needed to say. She continued, I'd like to offer you reinstatement retroactive to yesterday, with a new title, Senior Client Partner, and a 15% raise from your last salary request. I exhaled slowly. That's generous, but I've already signed a contract elsewhere. Another pause. Then, carefully, with Echelon? I'd prefer not to say, I replied diplomatically. Carol smiled faintly. Understood. I suspect Sylvia will be hearing from us today. She stood and extended her hand. Whatever your next chapter, I hope Ravlin was part of your growth even if we failed to match your value in the end. I shook her hand. It was. And thank you for the conversation. As I exited the building for the second and final time, I felt lighter than I had in months. Closure wasn't something Ravlin had offered willingly. I had taken it. Back in my apartment, I placed the signed offer letter from Echelon back on the table. I stared at it not with hesitation, but with certainty. The next day, I emailed Colin and attached the signed documents with a short note, excited to begin this new chapter. Thank you for believing in me. The reply was almost immediate. Subject, welcome aboard. Looking forward to introducing you to the team Monday morning. We're lucky to have you, Natalie. Lucky. That word echoed in my mind. They didn't know I wasn't the lucky one. I was simply someone who had finally stopped waiting for approval to rise. Monday arrived, crisp and cool, as I stepped into the towering glass doors of Echelon Strategies. The lobby buzzed with a kind of purposeful energy different from Ravlin's strained professionalism. This wasn't just a fresh start. It was a promotion, a redirection, a turning point. My new office was already prepared. Corner window, clean lines, a real door. No shared cubicle, no borrowed desk space. And on the table, a welcome basket, personalized stationery, and my nameplate in brushed steel. At 9 o'clock sharp, Colin stopped by. Time to meet your team, he said with a grin. He led me into the adjoining conference space, where 5 team members were already seated. These were not junior assistants, they were seasoned marketing professionals, each managing vendor partnerships, campaign logistics, and budget strategies. Now, I was their director. Team, Colin said, this is Natalie Chen, our new Director of Client Development. Many of you have worked with her during our previous collaborations. You already know her work speaks for itself. Warm greetings followed smiles, handshakes, a few respectful nods. They knew who I was. They'd seen the results. After our kickoff meeting, Colin pulled me aside. Before you dive in, he said, we want your insight on a delicate matter. He guided me into the larger strategy boardroom, where Echelon's CMO and CFO waited, along with a couple of legal advisors. Our contract with Ravlin is up for renewal next month, said the CMO, a sharply dressed woman named Priya. Given the recent upheaval and your departure, we're reevaluating that partnership, the CFO added. Their performance outside of your work has been uneven for a while. We've gathered 3 proposals from other agencies. We value your perspective. I took a breath. This was the moment Sylvia had never anticipated. I could have easily encouraged them to cut ties. It would have felt like just as clean, satisfying. After all, Ravlin had mishandled not just my career, but their biggest client relationship. But I wasn't here for revenge. Ravlin's creative work is solid, I said thoughtfully. But without strong leadership on the account, I believe their consistency will suffer. The relationship will require significant oversight. Priya raised an eyebrow. In your professional opinion, would you recommend we continue with them? I replied, you should evaluate them the same way you would any other agency. No bias, no sentiment. Let their numbers, not their name, do the talking. They nodded in agreement. My answer had been neutral, fair, and yet, the implication was clear. Ravlin had lost its anchor. By Wednesday, the decision was made. At 11:02 a.m., the message was sent from Echelon's legal team to Ravlin's executive office. Subject, notice of transition. After a thorough review of our evolving marketing strategy, Echelon Strategies has selected Meridian Creative as our new external agency partner. Effective immediately. All brand assets and project materials should be transitioned by end of business Friday. Future correspondence will be managed through our Director of Client Development, Natalie Chen. I hadn't crafted the message. I hadn't even attended the final selection meeting, having recused myself to avoid a conflict of interest. But I knew what that email meant for Sylvia, for Ravlin, for everyone still. Inside those beige-walled offices, Echelon had represented nearly a third of Ravlin's annual revenue. And now, they were gone. The fallout didn't take long. By 2:00 p.m., my phone buzzed with a message from Jessica, Ravlin's receptionist. Office is in chaos. Sylvia's been in closed-door meetings all day. 3 account execs have updated. There are some S. You didn't have to say a word. The numbers said it for you. I smiled. I didn't feel giddy or smug, just calm. Letting go of a company that never saw your value and then watching them realize it too late was closure in its purest form. That afternoon, I focused on onboarding my new team, laying the groundwork for campaign cycles, vendor metrics, and performance benchmarks. Echelon had high standards, and now I was the one setting the tone. Later that evening, another unexpected message arrived. It was from Carol Deming. Hi Natalie, I thought you'd like to know. Sylvia tendered her resignation this morning. Thank you for handling this entire transition with grace. You may never see the ripple effect you set in motion, but I assure you, it has been felt. 1 year later, my nameplate at Echelon now reads Vice President, Strategic Partnerships. The title came sooner than expected. The team expanded, campaigns scaled, and I found myself speaking at conferences I once watched from the back row. I passed Sylvia's old quotes on LinkedIn, sometimes those corporate platitudes about leadership and resilience. I don't hold any bitterness. I don't need to. Ravlin was a chapter, a proving ground. But this Echelon, this team, this vision is the story I'm writing now. Looking back, I realized Sylvia thought she was punishing me by cutting me loose. What she actually did was release me to